Welcome to Billy Coco Presents Side Project Spotlight, episode 67. This is a developer's journey into making cool stuff. I'm Kotaro.
I'm Steve.
And I'm Aaron.
And we are Philly Coco, a Philadelphia-based Coco Heads community focused on Apple development. That primarily, but not exclusively, means iOS, Mac, tvOS, watchOS, and VisionOS development. Billy Coco's true desire is to take you higher on your own developer journey. Ooh,
yes.
All right. This is our WWDC edition. WWDC prediction.
Yeah, and if it sounds a little, Culturo sounds a little off today, it's because we're using Apple AirPods for the microphone because of technical difficulties.
Yes, unfortunately, I apologize.
But
my connection seems weird on my my little mic. So
yeah, well,
anyway.
It happens. It happened to me. My microphone cable it wasn't even. I didn't wake up like you did and find the connector bent 90 degrees. But I have the same microphone, and it's one of those Yetis, and my microphone cable just kind of stopped working after a while, and I just replaced it, and it was okay again. So I don't know.
I mean, this might be a good idea. Like, this Yeti is so old. It's kind of got like a micro USB-C to like a USB-A connector.
Yeah, that's what I have.
And
old school.
That's really old school. So maybe this might be a good chance. I assume there was a micro USB-C a micro USB to a USB-C connector that I can find somewhere. But
well, we'll find out.
That might be an interesting one.
maybe Apple will release a microphone this year. No, probably not.
Sure.
Well, besides what's built in. Oh, we didn't actually try to see if your built-in my MacBook microphone was better. Isn't it supposed to be studio quality?
Well, this is the M1 Pro considered studio quality?
I don't know.
Is that?
I used to use the mic on my MacBook Pro 2020 before I got this one.
That was pretty good, right? All right. Well, should we get desperate enough? We'll go there.
Yeah, but in the meantime, this is the big WWDC24. What do we call this? Preview, rumors, hot takes, all the things. I don't know what we're gonna title it. It might be the hot takes by the end of this. But are you
excited? So just for context for anybody who probably might not know what a WWDC event is, Steve.
Well, WWDC is the Worldwide Developers Conference for Apple. So anyone who works on builds Apple software, or not Apple, builds software for Apple platforms like macOS, iOS, iPadOS, watchOS, VisionOS, and tvOS. I think I got all of them. That's the big mecca for every year. Now, it used to be you could get tickets and travel out there, but now it's there's only a 1 day thing in the beginning. It's in person, and the rest is online for the week. But it's like an interactive online. WWDC has different talks about different technologies that are coming out, as well as the opportunity to talk with actual developers from Apple.
One of the interesting things of this is kind of like it's like conference, like big conference, developer conference season, right? So you had Google in like early May, if I remember correctly, with their I/O conference, and then maybe about a week or two after, you had Microsoft Build conference, and so you started to. Usually what's kind of interesting about these is that they sort of like kind of build you up, set you up for what you might probably will expect from WWDC. So like the going themes for both of those conferences was around AI. So in Google's case, Google I/O, a lot of the conversation, I would say like almost 60-70% of the talks were around Gemini AI and how it's integrated to all its products, whether it be Kotlin, Android Studio, Flutter. There was a talk that included Gemini AI and how that gets integrated in those products. In the case of Microsoft Build Conference, it was all about Copilot plus PC, Copilot. What else was Copilot? What else was Copilot? It's like Copilot everything.
Copilot plus PC, Copilot GitHub, Copilot in your Windows. It's Copilot everything.
Copilot in your Windows, right?
I mean, it's Copilot everywhere. Copilot on Office 365. Copilot, probably going to be a Copilot for Copilot.
Can you turn it off?
I hope so.
Yes. So, but I think so. It's like so they
There's a
have
dedicated button
that was
for
a
it,
little
though.
bit.
There's a dedicated Copilot button now.
Really? So is it in place of the start button?
No. I mean on the hardware, on the Copilot
hardware.
plus PCs. It's part of the spec that you have to have a button for Copilot. Brings up Copilot in Windows or wherever.
That's
I guess
hilarious.
contextually.
Is there? I'm like looking at my laptop now.
It's probably like where
MacBook
Option
Pro.
or Command would be. It's one of them. It's probably I think it's replacing the Windows key. So maybe it's not like
really.
I think that's what it's doing.
That would be really upsetting.
Well, look, man, all these companies, they're now all about AI. I mean, they were about I don't know something else before. Now they're all about AI. So everything has to be.
So one of the funny things, speaking is, in that sense, is like Recall was think of like Time Machine, but like taken to this most obnoxious like conclusion in some ways of like it's done to take snapshots of your screen, I think, and then does some inference of like what's in the screens, and then change if the change is significant enough, it will take another snapshot.
Yeah. It takes photos like screenshots, and then they have some vision models to object detect, to detect what's on the screen, so that you can search for it. You can say like, what was that picture of a red car I was looking at last week, and then it'll like look for a red car in the history, and then pop up the image, and maybe you can find out what website you're on or whatever.
And I have to wonder because that would require a lot of processing power.
That's
a lot
what
of
the NPU does. No, it's a separate processor that does it. That's what it's part of the Copilot plus PC thing. So it's like the NPU. I guess that's neural processing unit, whatever they call it.
Yep.
But yeah, there's a separate chip that does all that, or part of the chip.
And I understand it's like it's not going to the cloud, which is fine. But
so they say
for now,
until you should get some virus or something. Until it is, yeah. I they didn't really. I didn't see any explanation about how that could be guaranteed. Yeah,
and then the other point was like whether or not those screenshots are stored locally, right? So like basically taking up file space.
I think they are. I think you needed like 25 gigs minimum or something to use it. Space. Like, where else are they going to keep them?
So
you need gigabytes of space for screenshots of everything you're doing every few minutes. Whatever for months in time. Like, you want to go back and see what you did 6 months ago. That takes some space. maybe they'll sell an extra little device, like a little NAS device you'll just plug in just for your Copilot screenshots or something.
I mean, it's just hilarious because, like, if you do like a search, and let's just say, you're searching for like some randomly not safe for work thing, and like it just happens to be, in a public space, like all the crappy stuff is going to show up. Like,
well, it's I think it's supposed to be tied to the user as well, so you can't look at someone else's recall, and you can set to be fair about this. Like, okay, and I hate that term, but the Microsoft did say there are controls for this, and I think the Wall Street Journal did a little video about it. Like, yeah, you can choose what gets excluded from this. So certain websites, I think you do some kind of policies on it. You can also just turn it off completely.
I mean,
which is what I would
what's
do.
the point, right? Like that should be like an opt-in versus like what I assume is an opt-out.
I think it's an opt-out.
No, I'm sorry.
It should be opt-in. I think it may be an opt-out though. Yeah, I think you have to turn it off though, not on. So I think it's an opt-out.
Kind of think like out. I mean, there's so many like, regardless of whatever moral issue or creepy factor about this, forget that for a second and just think about like the technical annoying things about it. Like if I have a processor intensive application, I'm not going to run recall on this, right?
Yeah, but it's not going to affect your processor. That's their point. They're like, it doesn't run on the CPU.
I don't buy that.
What about all your AI apps?
I think they're supposed to be running, I think, on this other piece
of
silicon.
That's what I'm saying, but like your whatever image generating whatever things that you're running on and using the neural processor, and then your recall is stealing some of those processor cycles.
I mean, that's quite possible. I mean, because there's only limited resources with any kind of architecture, but I don't imagine it takes that much processor, not to take a screenshot. I don't know how much it takes to actually
the
process
screenshot
each
should be
screenshot.
straightforward, right? But it's much more of like it's always doing something in the background to
I guess
process and
you know
index your
yeah.
stuff, right?
It would be well, I don't know. It would be nice to have a more detailed explanation. Maybe there is one somewhere of how it works and what the architecture is, so we could answer these questions. But we're not Microsoft developers either, so we don't know. We don't know how it works. But it was the I guess the feature that was they were most proud of, I think, at the Copilot plus PC event. I think that's how you're supposed to say it. Copilot plus PC.
Copilot
so it's not even
PC.
like it's not even like a PC with Copilot. I think it's more like the Copilot is the most important thing now. So Copilot plus PCs, yeah. So that's that's where we are now, everybody. The AI, the so-called AI tools are now more important than the computer.
So not to be outdone, WWDC, the strong rumor is, and I think certainly Apple is not denying it, is it's going to be fairly themed around AI. And up to this point...
Themed? I don't know. Will it be? Does Apple do that? Do they theme their stuff like that?
You know, we're gonna have a
Probably.
bingo card that says like AI is gonna be mentioned 20 times.
We need it over under. Yeah, we do. We need some. I think we're gonna make some squares and be like AI said more than 25 times. AI said more than 100 times or something.
Yeah.
Just to get bigger. But then that means someone has to count. So good luck.
We're just gonna AI to count it.
Oh God, that's actually funny. We should be able to have something like that.
Right? Like, just take the script, take the transcript, put it into, and just say, ChatGPT, give me what's the count on how many times AI is mentioned?
Yeah, you know, if you had a Copilot plus PC, I think one of the features is it'll do like real time transcription. Mm-hmm. I don't know, or maybe that's just translation. I don't know, something like that. But yeah, you should be able to definitely have one of these tools do that.
Mm-hmm. Aaron, cool. You're about to say something, or?
Oh, nothing. You could just, if you have the transcript, you don't need AI to find that.
I mean, that's true. That's very true. You just do it.
But, you know, I'm hoping that it's not just, we stuck AI in everything. Are you happy now? I want like actual usable features that make things easier and better.
Yeah.
So some of these things just seem like AI, so we can say that we did it.
I think Apple is a little better. I think Apple's going to be better than the other two companies, Microsoft and Google, at not being swept up in the hysteria. But we will see. Maybe not. Maybe they will be. But I'm hoping. I'm really hopeful that it'll be a more of a like less cringy and more reasonable take on this, and actually showing us useful things. And even to the expense that I feel like Apple's going to end their presentation, and people are going to on the internet, especially on X, are going to be like, this is nothing. Look, this is horrible. It's just it's too conservative. It's not. It's that's what I want to actually hear from those people.
Well, the thing is like it's not something that's new with Apple, right? Like with Apple, they've already integrated AI in a lot of quote unquote AI in a lot of.
Well, they have because AI is a brand, an umbrella brand over a bunch of techniques and technologies. It doesn't really exist, and I wish people would stop using it, but that's the term that's being used. So yeah, Apple has definitely done things. They've done a lot of machine learning, implement a lot of machine learning technologies and algorithms for years.
So just to list them off,
it's generative AI that people are wanting to see. Generative AI, which means LLMs, large language models, and like things like diffusion, models for graphics generation, and that's what people. That's the thing that's in their minds of I think people when they think of AI.
Is that the same for audio generations? Is it the same approach?
Generative, anything generative. I think people want generative AI is what they're thinking that Apple needs to show generative AI, which because up until now they've used various machine learning technologies, but they haven't been implementing generative AI. So Siri or whatever whatever you call it on Apple. I guess they'll brand it on Siri. Be like a summarization feature would be a good example of using this technology, and they'll that's one of the rumors is to summarize conversations, or I guess I'm gonna guess email will be summarizable. I'm guessing that's going to be one of the things, messages, that kind of thing. That's what LLMs are good for.
I mean, you think about it, like Apple has done a pretty good job of like laying out the groundwork for a lot of these things, right? So they have you have CoreML, for which you can interact with models. You have CreateML, for which you can create these models. You have a lot of the object scanning, object detection work that involves AI, object detection. What was the other one? There was
Vision. Is that what you're talking about? Vision?
There was Vision, right? Vision. There was hand gesture recognizing, face detection. There's the photo apps where if you search for any context within the source, it's already done the sort of localized like object detection and categorizations for you for like basic things like food or ramen or dog or cat or whatever type of cat. You can go through your photo albums and do a search for those contexts. I mean, that is in many ways
faces
AI.
too. And Face has been there for a long time. That's gotten way better. That's gotten so good, the face detection, that I'll pick up some horrible blurry photo or whatever, and it'll be like, "Is this person?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it's right most of the time." Amazing.
There are like the text, the text to speech.
Right.
Even as much people dog it, like Siri was the precursor for all of this, right? And a lot of the sort of like it would understand to some degree what you're asking for in a variety of different ways, versus like being very robotic about your requests, right? Of understanding of your intent, even though it would never do a good job of responding.
Yeah,
it still had like a base understanding of what you were asking about. In a sense.
Yeah, this is why, I mean, the term AI is an umbrella term. It's more of a brand than it is anything else. It's like the trendy brand right now, like crypto was before this. Not that I'm saying they're exactly equivalent or anything. This actually has useful technologies. But, like there's a brand. Things were under the term crypto that were like everything just had to be branded that. Now everything has to be branded AI. And in this case, that was even more confusing, as I said, because AI is a term used in computer science research for the umbrella term for a whole bunch of technologies that Apple has already been touching on for years. So it's just that they didn't come out and say, "Oh, we're using AI," because it wasn't. First of all, it wasn't expected, and they're not. They
usually phrase it in like machine learning or transformers, or
they're gonna do that. They're gonna. There's no. I don't think they're gonna say AI 200 whatever times. I think maybe, but I think they're gonna have their own branded takes on some of these technologies. Like I think intelligent might be part of it. I think they might call things intelligent or something like that. I don't know.
Okay.
I'm hoping they blend it into the system better than just like the giant Copilot button on your keyboard.
You know what? Do we had a Siri button on the keyboards when we had the touch bar? But I guess we don't have that anymore.
The other day, we have a mic, but maybe that mic. No, that's just asking if I want to add dictation.
Yeah, we don't have a dedicated Siri button on the keyboards, but we did when we had the touch bar. There was a Siri button up there, and it's on your screen. I mean, it's on your bar up top. You can. So I mean, and there's a shortcut for it and everything. I guess.
No, but that has like a specific use. It's like bring up the thing to send a voice command. So that's like doing something specific. Whereas it's like bring up the thing to maybe get some AI something to enhance something or other that you're.
I'm not sure with the Copilot button. I thought the Copilot button was more like just to bring it up to do whatever contextually, but I don't know. I haven't used it. Obviously, it's brand new. But it's like I think it's more of a branded thing. I think it's like I thought it's replacing the Windows key. So if that's the case, what was the Windows key used for? Just to like bring up the start menu or something? So this would be like the equivalent of doing that, but like start your request or whatever. I don't know. I have to go and I look at the demos.
I guess it'd be kind of interesting if like that's kind of similar to like the action button, where you can assign it different
right
functions, and if you don't like the default.
Actually, the action button, I have the one on my watch, and I don't use it that much. I'm trying to get a feel for it. It's hooked up into the workout. That actually is pretty useful. And then when you're in there, I think you can use it to do something else. It's a little having just a single button that does multiple things is a little confusing. I think that's why with the action button specifically, people have tied it into a shortcut, which then came up with a list of options. And with the Copilot button or something like that, I kind of think that the approach makes sense. Like you don't know maybe if you know contextually, you could just do the thing. But I mean, it makes sense to bring up some way to ask your computer what to do. As we've talked about with like universal UI before, that's kind of where a lot of the stuff I think is most useful. You can interrogate your files. You can like ask the computer to do something in more or less plain English without using the correct terminology, and then it kind of figures it out, and then the right command gets executed. Like, that's useful for regular people. That's what the Siri was supposed to do. Wait,
so you don't really need another button for that type of thing of ask me a question.
Yeah, you don't need a button for it, I guess. I think the idea of the button is branding and convenience.
Like the whole spotlight thing, for example. Like if you do a command space and then you open up the spot, that could be where you do your prompts. Or it's like a blend of that, right? So like it will know to interpret, like if you're just typing a name, like a file name, or whatever you're trying to get to, it will just give you the list and not bother. But if you begin to start asking it a question or a request, then it can convert into like a much more like like a chat GPT style, like, this is you want to have like a longer conversation about something, or
Why don't we talk about some of the specific rumors that have been talked about? We're looking at the MacRumors website for this. So once you listen to this, if you listen to this when it comes out, it'll be a week before Dub, so you can check it out yourself. But when we're looking at this, and a lot of this is all AI related, but some of the ones that I think are most interesting for me are, like, I don't care about auto-generated Apple Music playlists. I mean, that actually Apple Music works pretty well now as it is, but for me. But code writing in Xcode sounds like GitHub Copilot to me.
Yeah, if I had to say, having experienced the Android Studio code writing assistant, that is miles ahead of what we have in Xcode, and I would love to get closer to that, where it will just get it will just give you better suggestions up front of, like, if it knows like you have a set of parameters, it will like pre-suggest, like, do you in your constructor, it will pre-suggest like certain things in relations to that, whether or like if you were doing like code complete comments, like doc.c stuff, right? I would love to not have to write so much just for it to like give me a general sense of like, I kind of get what you're asking for here. Let me just pre-fill that doc.c stuff, and then you can like tweak it afterwards, right? So better code completion there.
Yeah. I wonder what they train it on. So one of the things is, I mean, any of these tools have not been great for Swift code when I've tried using them.
Sure.
And I think that's because there's not as much Swift code to put in the models, or good Swift code. So I'm like, but if is Apple going to rely on OpenAI for this feature, or would they build it as like a local model? Because I could see it going either way. But if they tried to build their own model for this, like, what did they train it on? They can't train it on Apple code because that would potentially leak.
Yeah, I guess it'd be interesting because they might say they would integrate with Copilot directly. Like maybe it'd be like a pseudo public, similar to like GitHub, like integration with Git and GitHub.
Yeah, but that's like, but the thing about Git is like you're not like, you're explicitly just pushing code up to GitHub. Like if you integrate this with OpenAI stuff or Gemini or whatever, that means your source code is like going to some third party and then being and then coming back, or it seems like a different kind of thing for Apple to do, because Apple's so privacy focused normally. Yeah,
that would be much more like an opt-in type of thing. So if
I would think so.
Like for now, for example, there's no like official integration. There's no plugin. There are third-party plugins, but there's no direct plugin to work with Copilot or Gemini.
Is that because the plugin system's terrible in Xcode?
I mean, I assume so, but people can do it. people build stuff for it, so it's not like impossible.
No one cares. I don't know. But that's the one I'm interested in seeing how they do it. It's expected that they do something with this, and I agree with you. Like building the doc.c stuff is a great point. I mean, I feel like they could do a lot with it because SwiftUI specifically is it has a lot of predictability to
one of the things they could do a better job of is help with code suggestions, code like tests, for example. Like, can you help me generate tests for this?
Here we go.
Right?
I don't want to write unit tests. Write them for me, computer.
That's like, I feel like, here's the thing, like, I feel like there is a wave of developers. It's gradual. I see it everywhere where people are like, what is the value of a test? Nobody does the measurement of like how long it takes to write these tests, write good ones, write optimal ones, and then maintaining these tests, right? Like, the bigger your app gets over time, like the more tests you write and you have to maintain.
But you have no idea if your app is working if you don't have any test coverage, and then you can't modify things without. No, look, we're all guilty of this. It's not like I have a whole ton of tests either, but I understand like there's a major trade off, and I'm trying to fix that.
I have no stake in the game or whatever the term is. Like, if you love writing tests, more power to you.
Well, I mean, I think we should be all writing tests. I think we're all doing it wrong if we're not writing tests.
Some people like to write Mozart in the style of Mozart, and sometimes it's jazz. I'm a hot mess when it comes to coding.
But the thing I think that holds back tests, or more of a TDD style testing, and is the tooling sucks in Xcode. Even today, it still sucks. It's slow as hell to start up into a simulator. It has to run everything in a simulator. It's just so janky. It stopped working sometimes for me. So it's just if you can use some LLM system to just make it easier to write them, but more importantly, make it work better. I just make it run faster, and that would help a lot, because you can't do unit testing TDD style if they don't run quickly. I do
believe in the spirit and the principle behind TDD, and I think if you're going to go that route, you should do it manually, just for the fact that you have to understand the context of what you're testing, right?
Well, you have to understand
what type of test you're trying to write. And I would not want that. I would not want that to be automated away, but I would love to get a suggestion of okay, here's my class, or here's my business logic. Can you write me some simple or some straightforward tests, or at least starter tests for me to
Here's an example.
Start with.
I have an example in my head here. So I don't think the expectation is the computer would just examine your code and just write a bunch of tests, and you just blindly accept that whatever it wrote is testing. So how would it know what to write? Now, what you're going to be is here's the expected output for this code here. Write me a test, that checks this, and you could have it, autocomplete a lot of the code, because a lot of testing code is just boilerplate stuff. And you see that in a composable architecture has a really good testing tools that help you to basically, you can write these exhaustive tests, and it's kind of verbose, but it's very predictable. So because they wrote a whole framework to kind of encapsulate good tests, coverage and ways of writing tests. But it's just, there's so much duplicate boilerplate types of code and patterns as patterns that you're using when you're writing these tests. You're setting it up. But most of the time you're trying to check to see if the output the output of something matches what you expect based on a given input. So it's you could definitely automate a lot of the writing of that, because it's not the writing of code that is what a programmer does is most important. It's not the writing of the typing of the code. It's everything that comes before that. So use the computer to help you automate the actual typing part, and that can make you more productive, but it doesn't stop you from having to think about what you're testing.
Right. Hopefully.
Yeah, but I mean, I can imagine scenarios where it's you can have it generate 100 tests, because it's just a simple pattern that you need, that you can understand that it's testing. I just need you to, if you have some algorithm that takes in it takes in some kind of data and then outputs it in the different ways, and you can just give it examples, and you can just write all the tests, that kind of thing.
I don't want to deep dive too deep into this particular thing, but
it's too late.
I know. I always view the TTP kind of principle on this one. TTP.
Nice. Okay, you were not misspeaking. Okay.
Yeah, in the sense of like, or maybe it's time to process or whatever, in terms of like everybody's so process oriented when it comes to particularly like a full team agile, and then so half the time like you're just saying I'm writing a test because that's a part of the ticket, and that drives me nuts because like that gets they get blocked because like, oh, you didn't write the test. I'm like, what? it's not even relevant in this context. But anyway,
but yeah, I
digress.
I think in Xcode we're all excited to see anything to make Xcode better every year, because every year it does improve, but it still somehow retains its core element of jank. Like every year it gets better and is yet always jank. I don't understand.
I mean, what because there's always two keynotes, right? There's the keynote that's really more for the press, much more about like public, what's new in all the operating systems.
That's where we all get drunk on the drinking game for how many times does Tim Cook say AI?
Yeah. Now the State of the Union, which happens maybe three or 4 hours after the fact, after that one.
That's the good one.
Is much more. That's the good stuff for us. That's the real keynote. And for that, I think like some of the features there will be of interest to us, whether it be updates to or whatever the new, was it Swift 5.10? I think is the new one.
Oh, they're going to do 10. Just go to 6.
No, I thought it was Swift 6. I thought they're going to 6.
Is it Swift 6? Are we moved to 6? Okay.
I think this is the year 6.
I hope so.
It's been years in the making.
But I think so. What they're going to be much more stricter about what's that, the async?
Oh, the async stuff and sendable is it's been pain. It's been painful,
and then it's going to be painful, but we're all going to get out of there just fine. What else? Updates, hopefully improvements to SwiftData.
SwiftData, yes.
I think for me, much more of a question, like get a better sense of like the shared container kind of story of like for CloudKit. So when I want to share with colleagues and friends, like, I don't know, my app's top 10 items or top 10 lists, it's the functionality is a little more integrated with SwiftData versus like core data.
I want ingest performance improvements. Like I want to be able to, because unless I'm doing something fundamentally wrong, it just seems slow to put a bunch of data into the system from like a like an API.
That actually would be, because I think you probably could be going into some of those like virtual labs, and you can bring that up as a point of contention. But do you have any developer wish lists for yourself?
Well, anything with SwiftData improvements. Make an Xcode less jank. What else?
I am curious, like, what are they going to do with VisionOS? Like, this is definitely the time to see, like, okay, like, are you committed in terms of like updating and refining the experience for VisionOS? So one of the things is like it's not easy to organize your apps when you open up all your apps. The other thing that I want to see is better hand gesture recognizer modifiers. So like if I do like finger pointing, or if my hands are open palm or closed fist, I want an easier way to know that. And maybe less latency on my less latency on my hand, just like knowing how my fingers, no more, like if I move my hands fast across the screen, it takes like maybe like a split second for the actual 3D hand gesture recognizer to recognize that. So
you think that can be improved?
Falling behind.
Think it can be improved without hardware changes? Yeah. Remember, the Vision Pro is still running an M1, isn't it?
M2.
Or is it M2? Which is, I feel like the M2 to me feels like just an M1 slightly upgraded, but M2.
That's fair.
Okay, so it's running M2. That's cool.
Is it usually majority of the reasons why they even bump versions is based on the nanomillimeter? Is it a 3 or?
Yeah, I mean,
I think the M4 is a 3 nanometer. M2 and M3, I think, are still 4 nanometer, 5 nanometer. So it's just about efficiency, right? In terms of, ultimately, it just means more efficiency, watts per or something.
and how you divvy up the silicon budget for different tasks,
Correct. Yeah.
So they do it, and they do have a custom chip on the Vision Pro too. Whatever, I forgot what's called.
Right,
so
right. The R, I think that was the R1. So it's the M2 and the R1.
I feel like that's why I got confused. I feel like the R1 is that what's doing the vision stuff?
It's like all like the sensor
sensors. Okay.
Yeah.
So maybe
all
it can
the
be
sensor related stuff. Yeah, all the sensor related stuff in terms of understanding what's going on in your scene, that's handled by your R1.
Okay.
I think all the output and what you display is all handled by the M2. Correct me if I'm wrong there, but
that makes sense because that makes sense. So Vision Pro. This rumors site doesn't really list anything for Vision Pro or any of the other systems. Mostly iOS, Apple, and iPadOS. So I feel like Vision is not going to be as big of an update as some people hope. I think it's going to be pretty modest. It's like filling in the gaps that seemed like they were missing from the first version. I don't even know if it's going to be 2. You think it's going to be version 2?
No, I would put money like on Vision 1.5.
Does Apple? I mean, at WWDC, have they ever announced an operating system that wasn't a full version number increase? I don't remember that. I feel like they might call it 2, but it might they might just call it 2, but it will be more like a 1.5.
1.5.
If you're going with semantic versioning.
I mean, it would make some sense, but because they announced Vision 1 last year, right, as a beta, but it didn't really get released until, was it February or March of this year? February, I think, of this year, right? Like it didn't really become official. So that's why I'm sort of hesitant to say it's actually going to be 2, because it's almost like you're just sticking 2 in front of it for the sake of.
But what AI? I guess the AI stuff in VisionOS would just be the same as an iPad or an iOS. So it'd be things like they probably just have the same stuff. Like, would there anything vision related that you'd want to see that would be like
so? I would hope they'd come up with more native. Like there was a lot of apps that were iPad compatible apps that never crossed over to VisionOS. Right. So I would want them to move as many as the default system apps in there. So calendar.
I think that's probably a given.
Yeah, I would assume that'd be the case.
By making it more native, what does that mean? Does that mean it takes on that different glass look or something? Is it like how different is a 2D like a calendar app when it's an iPad version versus like a VisionOS specific version? How different would it work?
So
look,
I think the way it interacts with other apps is how it will differentiate itself. So and it gives them a chance to flex a little bit in terms of the weather app, for example, has like a if you look at it for the moon or something, it has the moon's thing. I forgot, you can rotate it or something, but imagine that in 3D.
Okay, so that's the kind of thing you can do. I'd also maybe an immersive calendar. I want to go into 3D space and see my calendar.
Yeah.
I don't know what that would mean. I just want them to. You want to flex? Just make my calendar 3D, Apple. I don't know what that means.
I mean, you can do a lot of interactions that are unique within Vision Pro. I mean, that's what they should do if they really want to say, okay, this is next generation UI experience.
Maybe they'll actually do some of that work that they were expecting the other developers to do of figuring out what spatial computing is.
Aaron with the burn.
Yeah. Well, the other thing too is they don't have a VisionOS version of Pages. All the
don't worry, Page is going to get updated with an AI assistant writing feature. So
yeah, they could. I mean, that's
they'll make it 3D. Make it 3D.
They don't necessarily. Actually, to be honest, they don't really need to build anything internal.
Yeah.
Or within the system. Basically, they could inherit, because I think the core tech is, or the core system itself is based off of iPad OS. They can still migrate a lot of that stuff that they put in the iPad OS and the AI related stuff and just push it over to VisionOS. Plus, they can start to migrate all the apps from all the other apps, right, that are Swift UI that they have for like weather, stocks, blah, 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 news, and then move that over to VisionOS.
Yeah, and other things that I think would apply to Vision OS, but all of them. One of them listed on here was shortcuts integration with Siri. I think we've talked about this before, and I think especially true for something like maybe like Vision. The ability to just ask with voice commands and actually have useful things happen instead of what we have now with Siri, which is like you can ask it to set a timer and once in a while it'll work. Actually, no, timer is one of the things actually most reliable about it for me. But, it doesn't do a whole lot because it's not reliable.
Yeah,
but we talked about before, like a multi-step processes with a voice command is what I want. And I wonder if they're going to upgrade the Intense APIs or some new API so that we can integrate with that. Because I would love for our apps to be able to participate in that. And so you can ask Siri to do something and it can coordinate potentially between apps. That would be maybe too much to ask for, but widgets. What about widgets?
Support in VisionOS.
Oh, wow. Oh, yeah. That would be cool.
I mean, that's non-existent.
I keep forgetting that it's not in there because there's like Widgetsmith is in there, right? That's as an app, but I think it's just an app.
It's just an app that just opens up windows, like basically Windows. Just Windows that you can just prop over. But
everything is a widget.
Everything is a widget. If you think about it, yeah.
Yeah, but in this case, right? Like, let's say you've already pre-baked or pre-built apps, right? And the thing about widgets that would be different in versus like just opening up an app and making it look like a widget is these things will stay there in their space and they'll be active while you're having other app open. That would be the difference. So you can let's say you watch a movie but you still want to see your security cam widget while in your environment, while your environment's open, right?
Right.
You can do that. You can't do that right now.
While you're in an
get out of your environment.
Yeah.
You gotta get out of your environment. Then you have to tap on the window that you want to interact with, and that's already faded out.
You want like that? I don't know if they're going to get persistent widgets like they would exist inside, because that kind of contradicts an immersive space, right? If you're not really pushing out everything else.
Well, I wouldn't necessarily completely contradict it. It's just more like it would always be active.
Maybe be glanceable.
While
maybe you have to like glance. Yeah. Okay. Well, maybe you just have to like. Maybe they're not there unless you're looking at a particular spot or something.
Oh, that would be the other thing.
It could be this. It could be part of like focus modes.
Yeah, focus modes. There you go.
Yeah.
So the option there, but I agree with you. Like, you need to. I think you're right. If you want to have a fully immersive, metaverse type experience, you need to be able to bring in some of these things into the immersive spaces sometimes.
But when you're talking about widgets in your immersive space, somebody's going to put ads in those things.
Yeah, avalanche of ads incoming. Yeah. Aaron is right. Hashtag Aaron was right when it happens.
I mean, are there ads now in widgets? I mean, because the whole point about what I mean by widgets as a developer is what you'd only be using what you already have built in other widget systems, and you're just sort of now having to you can now access it in VisionOS.
Not a different widget, but just the same iOS iPad widget.
Right, because they did the same thing for Mac OS. Last year.
Right. Those widgets exist in Mac OS too.
Similar in that context. Yeah.
That makes sense.
I don't know why they haven't done that already. One of the many cases of they haven't done this already.
Yeah, I said VisionOS I think was not fully baked when it came out. And so this is the fully
100%.
baked part. The bread will be finished in WWDC. Let's stretch the metaphor to breaking.
If we're following a company as big as Apple, right? And I think you know this, Eric, just in general, working for big corporations, it's like they're like, for us, if we were indie developers, we could just rock and roll, get it in, bang it out in like a week. And they're in everybody else's world, like they're planning like quarterly sprints. They're planning
multiple
one
years
quarter. They're planning for the next quarters for multiple years. And they are very rigid about like what they sneak in as a feature. So that's my also, you also
Apple doesn't Apple tend to run smaller groups than you'd think. Like they're a big, huge company, but they don't necessarily they seem to have to focus on like only a few things at a time. And we've seen this for over the decades there, where when Apple's focused on one particular development push, other things kind of fall by the wayside. You know, we that may have been the case with macOS for years, because we were complaining for years like macOS and they were getting any updates because they were focused on fixing iOS or something. I don't know if that's true, but that's the impression I've always got, that Apple, for whatever reason, seems to only be able to focus on one thing at a time sometimes. So I don't know. Maybe they've gotten better over the years. But it's possible they have less resources than we think for some of the stuff. And of course, like the best personnel, the best developers will go to whatever the highest profile things are. That makes sense. So other things and other platforms like tvOS, for instance, will get like maybe like
Apple
less
Store Connect,
less Apple App Store Connect. You know, actually the team on App Store Connect, I think they've done some great work with the API, but they don't really the UI is still not great. It's a lot better than it was, but they seem to have made more effort to improve the API lately.
Make it faster. I'm not asking for much.
It's so again, it's the jank. It's like with all of the developer stuff from Apple has a certain level of jank you just kind of live with.
Yeah, that's true.
But so yeah, widgets, that's a great one. I don't even think that's listed here in this list for MacRumors. A lot of the stuff in here that MacRumors is expecting, I think that we're all expecting after Microsoft and Google, is just LLMs and all the things. So, you know, you'd be able to go to Pages and be like, you know, write me a whatever, and it'll just give you a regurgitated text. You know, the slide creation thing, that's actually cool. I like that because I think that exists. I think they put that into Microsoft's tool too. PowerPoint. I think it's in PowerPoint now, or will be. That's actually cool because making slides is one of those things that, you know, I've used Canva for that type of thing, or thumbnail designs and stuff. You go and you look for other people's themes or designs they made to start with, or it'd be nice to just be able to, you know, do that and then maybe modify it or just ask for something. Like, I want a series of slides that's like uses like an orange color and is like for this type of thing, and it just give me some options to start with, because, you know, I don't want to spend, you know, hours trying to make a you know, design. So that's cool. And then a lot of the stuff is with, I think, summarization of messages and probably emails and I think what everybody wants, though, more than anything else, is just for Siri to work better, like just to understand what I'm asking for. And you know what, the guys who are on the tvOS team, please make that thing work. If there's anything you can do to make it just all I want, I don't need AI crap or anything. I just want to be able to say something into my Apple remote and have it verbatim regurgitated into a search box on YouTube. I don't know if it's YouTube's fault. I don't know if it's Apple's fault. I don't know if it's a combination. I don't know if it's like stray neutrinos hitting my microphone at the moment I'm talking. Just make it work. If you can make it work, I'd be so happy. Because
you're doing it inside of Apple, inside of YouTube's app.
Let me give you
like outside of.
Well, both ways. I'll hit the button on the remote and I'll say dingus search YouTube and give it a thing to search, and it just will not work a lot of the times. Now, some of this might just be YouTube's jank, but even when I'm in the YouTube thing, it will rewrite your freaking words for you, and I don't know where that's coming from. That's Apple or YouTube, but when you're doing it, even when you're doing it from outside, of YouTube, sometimes it'll think that I'm asking to download the app YouTube. And I'm like, no. Or sometimes it'll just refuse to like search things because it doesn't like what I said, you know, or it'll just rewrite it and like use completely different words than I said. And it's really annoying. It's very hard to use tvOS with just your voice. Like, I have to always bring up the remote app on my phone and just and then this is probably Google's fault, but it could be the tvOS control. Even using a remote in YouTube's app is awful because it'll just I'll be typing something, and then the focus will disappear from will move from the text box, so that my typing will get cut off halfway, and then it'll do a search, and then I'm stuck in this like loop of trying to add one letter to the stupid search box, but it won't work, and then I have to kill the YouTube app and do it again. That could just be YouTube, but it could also be like the tvOS. Is a little bit.
It depends. It depends because the tvOS has its own dedicated text box like entering systems.
That's what I mean. It could be that. Just make Siri in general work. Just make it work better. Oh God, I keep saying the word and looking back to see if my HomePod goes off, but it hasn't yet.
Cool.
But everyone wants that. If Apple does that, like all will be forgiven. I think with people will be so happy if you could just talk to it. If they can themselves like reenact scenes from her with their iPhones, I mean, I think they'll be happy. Doesn't even have to be perfect.
So we want to get a couple things through before we wrap up. One of them is, do you have any particular, maybe this one bingo card item you would like to add for this particular WWDC bingo card set? That's not AI related.
Oh, it's not AI related. I was gonna say like Sherlocking, but that's technically AI related. I was gonna say Arc Browser.
That would be Sherlocking.
I was gonna say Arc Browser is gonna be Sherlocked.
Being Sherlock.
Yeah, which means that
you should put that as a
Yeah, which means that that Safari, I think, will have some of the same features as Arc in the sense of at least doing summarizations. I don't know if they'll do the whole searching thing, because I think they use Perplexity or something, like whatever it's called. I think that's what they use to search. But anyway, I think some amount of Arc browser stuff is going to be Sherlocked. But besides that,
I will put widgets for VisionOS as my choice
for the bingo card.
For the bingo card. What about you, Aaron?
I think we already talked about this, but VisionOS 2.0.
Oh, you're gonna say it's got to be a legit 2.0.
Yeah, it's gonna be 2.0.
Okay, that would be interesting.
Not 1.5.
No,
not 1.5. Like a full
I don't know,
iteration.
just because they got out of sync with the other platforms, and maybe they'll use this year to bring them all back in line.
Maybe they should just bring them all in line and everything be named 18.
That would be
like Microsoft skipped over. Didn't they skip over a number and went right to
that would break
my
brain.
They did that a couple times.
Speaking of Sherlock, what do you think aside from Arc browser will be Sherlocked for this year? Since every year there's one app that gets Sherlocked. Personally, I'm hoping. No, I don't think it's going to happen, but I'm hoping that we get like a better Sherlocked version of Trello. Because the reminder app technically does have a version of Trello that you can build a compound board, but it's not that great. It's a little not easy to set up because it's not on by default. And
it's a little weird. It's a little weird to figure out how to turn on. So Trello.
I would prefer a better version of that.
I mean, they'd have to do more. They have to do more than just make the board easier to because Trello you can just attach all kinds of stuff to, and they have plugins and things. Can you could do? I guess you can do a shared thing for reminders. So yeah, I could see it. Better Kanban support in Trello. I mean, in reminders, do Sherlock Trello.
What about you, Aaron?
That's cool.
What app that you expect or you would want to be Sherlocked? Meaning Apple rips the idea off.
I don't know if I ever want an app to be Sherlocked per se, but yeah.
Well, I mean, I'm thinking like one of the things that I would love is them to figure out their Unity story and Unity integration story, because Unity, as we've talked about in the past, is all over the place with their VisionOS story and integration, and currently with their leadership being as the way it is. If I'm Apple, I can't rely on them, especially if I need people to build games for me in this new platform. They're a great partner. 90% of iOS apps, I would say, is built in Unity.
But an Apple version of Unity.
Engine. I don't know if an Apple version, but at least a game engine that Apple would be like, okay, we're gonna attach our wagon to that engine. Okay, so whether it be Godot or Unreal or like something, at least hedge their bets.
New game engine support besides Unity.
Yeah,
I don't know how I'm going to fit that on the bingo card though.
Just new game engine.
New game engine. There we go. New game engine. Yeah. I can fit that. Yeah. So we got Trello Sherlocked, Arc Browser Sherlocked, widgets for VisionOS, VisionOS 2.0, not 1.5, and a new game engine. They're pretty good bingo card items. How many times is AI going to be spoken at this conference in the keynote?
I feel like I want to say 20. I want to put 20 times just to make it a hard one.
We're all going to do a prediction. Okay. Yeah. Number of AI.
One time.
One time?
Oh, okay.
Just one, and then never again.
We got Kotaro at 20.
Wow. I'm at 20. Okay.
Aaron at one single time. And let's see.
So I'm going to say 20 plus.
20 plus for Kotaro. 20 plus. Yeah. One single time. That's a tough one because Aaron has a really good point about this.
And, this can only be about the keynote.
The public keynote. The public keynote. Yeah. I'm gonna go with. I'm just gonna go with in between. I'm gonna go between 1 and 20. How about that?
Okay. So anything above 1 and below 20.
Greater than 1, less than 20. I think. You know,
you're not gonna go like 50 plus. You're not gonna be brave.
I can't imagine they're gonna do it like 200 times.
They might. I could be. I'm not really being serious with that.
200 times. Okay, I'm gonna put in like. I'm gonna put in. Can I type the infinity symbol? Can I type the infinity symbol?
Say 50 plus.
50. Okay, someone has to do it. I'll do 50 plus times AI set in the keynote.
Well, how many presenters do they usually have? So however many that is.
Half a dozen.
Like at least 10 plus.
Really? For the keynote?
Then each of them need to say 20 times.
So you gotta have Craig Federico. You have to have one for each operating system, right? So let's say you have 4, 5, right? Like iOS, watchOS, tvOS, VisionOS.
It's a lot.
Am I missing something? Right. So iPadOS. So 5.
I still don't think it's going to be as many.
So you have 5 presenters: Tim Cook, Phil Schiller, maybe, the hardware guy, the chip guy, Craig. Did I say Craig Federico?
Is every product going to be introduced with? If every product's introduced with like Pages now with the power of AI, Keynote now with the power of AI, then they can get
AI.
AI and all the things. I actually would not be surprised.
You thought you liked AI? I got AI for you.
I think Aaron might be onto something. I wouldn't be surprised if Apple comes out and they say AI like one time and then they use their own branded thing.
The only reason why I think of that is that they're trying to hammer home a point.
Yeah.
Right? They're saying we have an AI story too. And
they did. Yeah, that's a good point. They did that with 5G. Remember, it was like 5G, 5G.
Yeah.
It's okay. We're gonna go 50.
Like plus, I feel like the 50 plus would actually be more realistic than.
Well, I mean, I think plus. Google I/O counted their own, and it was like 200 plus or something. Okay. It's know, there's the supercut of that is very funny. Just AI.
I'll have to check that one out.
Well, yeah.
All right. Cool. Well, let me let's cut off here and we'll find out when we find out. Hopefully, we will also set up a Slack group, Zoom call to watch the keynote live. You can learn more at philly.cook.org. There you'll find the links of all our upcoming meetup schedules, including possibly this WWDC one, our Slack group, and our general contact info. If you're feeling generous, leave a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or whatever your podcast platform of choice is. And share us with all your developer friends. And one more thing. Some dad jokes. Some programmer dad jokes for you.
Yes.
From the deep regions of Reddit subreddit programmer dad jokes section.
The best jokes come from Reddit.
Oh, these are horrible. I will not lie. These are like at the bottom of the barrel kind of jokes. But anyway, here we go. Apple just announced that they were releasing a new updated Newton with a dedicated carry bag. Want to know what it's called?
What?
The iSac Newton.
The iSac Newton? What? That's terrible.
I did say I was pulling from the bottom here.
Ooh, right, next. The only thing worse would be an LLM joke, a generated joke.
Oh, I should have done that one. I've created a new implementation of .NET. I will pit it against the other implementations to prove it is better. And I'm going to call it Mono a Mono.
Oh my God. Wow. Not only is that a bad joke, but it's not even Apple anymore because I don't think anything's called Mono anymore. Also, can you imagine calling your programmer in thing Mono? Like, it just reminds me of the disease. I don't know.
I know. I mean, I'm sure there was jokes back in the day about it. All right, last one. Hopefully this will save it all. What kind of hotel rooms do developers book at a QA conference?
What?
test suites.
Yes. That's a terrible joke that I like.
Till next time, good luck on your home developer journey. We will cheer for you always.
But it still somehow retains its core element of jank.